Hi, it's Sarah. Welcome to the video. For this build, we actually started out using another creator's build to start with. If you don't know RGR Gaming, he's an amazing creator who does really unique and creative builds and tutorials, ranging from things like a functional zoo, a water park, and the Eiffel Tower to name a few. Also, an entire IKEA store, which I had to mention because Noomix is Swedish. Anyway, RG challenged his viewers to renovate this broken down house he built, which was amazing as is. We were not allowed to change or move any exterior walls or roofs, other than the things that were intentionally broken, which were meant to be fixed. We were not allowed to change the lot size or change the size of location of the pool. We could not add or remove the number of windows or their locations. We had to keep the landscaping trail where it was, but we could change the pattern. We had to keep the big boulder in the front, but could remove the other rocks. Basically, it was like renovating a real house. You just can't use Sims build rules in real life. He said go crazy, so we went crazy. As I was looking over the original build that RG made, it felt like it wanted to be a gingerbread or candy house, so we started in that direction. You'll see that the footage jumps to having a lot of things already in it. Unfortunately, some of my footage got corrupted and we lost a lot of what I did. Noomix had a really great candy house inspiration illustration that we wanted to kind of go for as far as the vibe. And I thought at first to cover the roofs with some wall objects that reminded me of cookies. That did not go as planned because when I started to do the lower roofs and the back side of the house, the objects kept acting like they were inside and went black. So I rethought that idea and decided on using the cloud light. But I used a lot of them, like over 1,000. And that lagged out my game and Noomix's and caused V not to be able to record it all.
After breaking my heart with cleaning that abandoned build, my first job on our build was to make this fountain. For that part, we were very far from my standards and my comfort zone, as I feel way more confident making abandoned, disgusting places than making fancy and colorful stuff. But I felt very excited to do that challenge with Noomix and Sarah because we all have ideas to add and that's so fun to do. Anyway, for that fountain, I was inspired to make something too much. You'll see that too much will be our main word in all the build. I used debug coins to redo that fountain and will use the tool mod to duplicate them and place them. To fit our cute, childish and fancy vibe for the exterior, I will use golden trophies as well, colorful plants, and I'll make the fountain with ice cream to give that house that you can eat vibe and suggest, hey childs, you are welcome to that place. I also did our first draft of the candy sticks we used for the fence, but then Sarah did them with a circular shape and in another colors that fits way more. Sarah is the one of us who has the highest level of tool patience, as you will see with her roof work, for example. Also, the part I usually do the most in builds is the landscaping, and there we had rules to follow, so I just tried to make custom stuff such as cupcakes, like flower beds, adding teddy bears everywhere to make it look like a too much version of cuteness.
After V's initial cleanup of the lot, I set to update some of the items we'd want to replace. I changed the pillars and added spandrels and fences to the porch, changed out some windows, and removed some rock. I find it really fun to work together as a team and see what the others have done after I take the build from them, but I find it really interesting to watch the video later and see how each of us works. I saw the result of what they did, but not how they did it. Noomix was the first to notice how each of us works because she edits the raw footage we sent her. She said V tends to flit around and do little things here and there, and she tends to do the same, but I will hyper-focus on one little section and do micro movements of things to get it just right. They usually don't leave anything floating or in a weird spot when they upload what they've done, but I get a little more excited than I want to admit when I find something that I can adjust. We say this all the time, but I don't like to build on my own anymore. It's obvious to all of us when we start to work on something that we need the others. It's a lot easier for me to think of crazy ideas and build on what the others have done or jump off of what they started. This was roof idea number 1. Those wall objects from I think Discovery University looked like cookie wafers to me, but it didn't work out. Then I started doing the edges with the cloud light. I thought they looked like the icing that you see on a lot of candy houses. This is the first time I'm using the move function of Tool, at least on a large basis. I used to just use the gravity pull, but that is really difficult when moving things on a roof or other structure, and it's sometimes unreliable when trying to move a lot of objects together. Using move, you could literally just move an object at the same height to another location. You will also see that the color and intensity window pops up a lot while I do this. Twisted Mexi added the ability to change the color and intensity of a light or all lights in build mode by shift-clicking it. He did not anticipate people moving as many lights as I did, and it's easy to click off of it, but that's why you see it popping up a lot. It's a feature I forget to use in builds a lot, because you have to use it in live mode and have a sim do each light. This makes it a lot easier if you aren't placing thousands of lights in a build. Here's where I take the candy cane that V made and turn it into a rainbow. The object is a flower pot from Dine Out, and it comes in a lot of swatches. Well, one of them is a rainbow, so each side is a different color. I make sure they're all facing the same way, then I rotate them by 20 degrees, and it spirals them around, making it look like a rainbow candy cane. I also take the same technique and create the rails of the fence. It's really helpful to have a guide object to make sure you're keeping things straight. I think even here, it ended up being slightly tilted, and so the fence eventually starts veering off the line. It's easy to adjust now with the rotate from center option though. Here I use the grid to move the candy cane from off the room to where I want it, as well as the fence rails. I just counted how many tiles I wanted it to the west, the direction I wanted it, then north or south depending on if it was in the right Y-axis location. And because I'm a crazy person, I needed each of the fence sections to be different. So then I rotated each of those by 30 degrees so it would appear like they were spiraling when you walked by them. Then I used this arbor object from Debug to be my guide for the archway of the entrance, and used the same technique as before, except V did all the rotating for me on the candy cane, so I had to figure that part out. Then I rotated everything by 20 degrees and deselected the previous object so it would be a spiral. And then we decided to go dark, because what is a candy house without traps and an evil witch who lures children in?
The second part is now when I build the kitchen and trap. At some point of the build, the level of cuteness made me need to take a step back, as it was too much to handle, so I began to make the trap mechanism that we imagined the witch would use to make the child's prisoners and cook them after. So I put that trap under the chair that I will replicate on the ceiling of the basement and custom do a mechanism that the witch would use to activate it. It's not functional, we don't have such things in game, but it's more for imagination and make it look accurate and coherent with the build we came up with. After that, I fiddled with the basement, and this was the first recording issues I had, as I misclicked and did not record all I did for the kitchen. And I was so sad because it took me a while to figure out. But well, what's the most important is that this basement needed to look so different from the rest of the build, the only place where the witch do not hide her real self, the place where she actually do evil stuff. Later in the build, my computer was totally unable to use the recording application and run the build in the same time, so I had to just build and count on my mates to record. You will see how Noomix reached a level of cuteness that I didn't know she could reach, like at all. And Sarah reached a level of tool details she did never before, because there are so much clouds and flower pieces, so much tests down before to realize at some point we had to be more humble. Because when Noomix computers start to be unable to load the build, then we have a major issue, as she has a very performance one. So as my computer was unable to record more, I will leave you with my mates. Bye!
Version 2 of the roof, all the clouds. This is when I thought I would do like icing stripes down the roof in different colors. It'll be fine. At this point I was thinking that on our first build together, I did a lot of what I thought at the time was crazy tool stuff with clouds, and wouldn't past Sarah be surprised now to see what I'm doing. Every time I've used those cloud lights again in the game, I recall that I thought I'd never have to use them again. Guess again, past Sarah, with a lot of these clouds acting like they were inside, so they simultaneously turned black and also received power. I think it was due to the chimney, but it gave me a lot of trouble. After I had the correct positioning of the diagonals, it was easy for me to copy and move, but I did not have the correct positioning of the diagonals, so I had to rotate and reposition things a few times manually, and that was a bit of a pain. But even worse was the lag and having to redo it once again. V thought of this old child's game from 2015 she played called Anna's Quest that had a witch and traps, and she was inspired by the idea of having a trapdoor under a table, which went into a creepy basement with a cage, and of course a giant oven. We definitely took inspiration from those childhood fairy tales like Hansel and Gretel that warn children from trusting strangers too much no matter how delicious their house is, how nice they are. V and I decided that even if we knew there was a witch living in that house, we'd probably still get trapped. Noomix is more of a salty snacker, so she might be able to resist. Maybe. Noomix eventually had to tell me don't send her any more video of the building. I didn't even get to send her the good stuff on the inside, but I did send her a lot of footage. So I just calculated, and I sent her 37 hours and 48 minutes of video footage.
Hello, this is Noomix coming in with some stats. V's computer crashed 3 times, Sarah's crashed 2 times. Sarah sent me 37 hours of footage, but 8 of those were a black screen. 2 times we recorded black screens actually. We removed about 600 cloud lamps, and it took 27 switches between us to get the final build. I did not have the patience to count how many items we had in the marshmallow fence. When Sarah was done with the roof, she decided to change the top floor, which me or V do not mind, it was just a bit tricky to edit it in. The end result is way better than mine because Sarah is a detailed genius. We continue to learn things with every build, what works and how to go about it. Speaking of learning, I love some feedback on our videos, constructive criticism is appreciated. This video went through so many iterations. Some footage was lost, as Sarah and V have said, and I was responsible for that too. Things are a little bit all over the place. We switched it between us about 27 times. Things changed a lot, but we are very happy with the end result. The flower pot was inspired by what I call a waterfall flower bed. It's a dream of mine to have a garden with this in it. There are a lot of flowers you can eat in real life, so let's assume you can eat them too. Recently I've been kind of into gardening, so to get a house with a big garden would be the actual dream. I only have a balcony right now, and I regularly send pictures of my tomatoes I grow on my balcony, to the point where V is now obsessed with tomatoes. The sparkles on the ground ended up going around the whole front. I usually never use this object, but it really fits with this build. The beams in the kitchen are cool, but they obstruct the view, so I ended up deleting them. If you feel the flowers are in the way for your gameplay or any of the other roof decorations, delete them with a sledgehammer. I went a bit crazy with the paintings. I usually have one thing I go excessive over in the build, but for this one, everything is over the top. It's kind of funny. When we started to make videos, V was the one who was most scared of talking, and she ended up being great. It's me that usually have trouble finding what to say. I think it's the Swede in me. We don't really like to highlight what we do and like give us a pat on the back. So when it comes to talking about what I actually done in the build, it's a bit of a trouble for me. This part of the build went through several iterations. It was once a little gazebo, but we changed back to what RGR had from the beginning with the square platforms. I'm very happy how the teddy bear picnic turned out. I channeled my best Sarah for the details, such as the hat I put on some of the teddy bears. The pool we imagined was filled with soda, and the border is chocolate with some jelly candies. Now over to Sarah again for the end of the video.
The living room didn't change much. I wanted to add some art to the walls and make it feel similar to the hallway, which has a lot of paintings up on the walls. I also found a rug that fit the whole room and took away the fluffy rug by the fireside. I've had houses set on fire in The Sims by having a rug too close. The evil witch doesn't want her home destroyed, of course. The hallway and office, I just switched things around a bit initially. There were some kid items in the office, and I decided that even with some toys, they probably wouldn't go in there. So I put the piano in there and the child violin, as if maybe the evil witch is a music teacher. And then I put the desk in the hallway, which doesn't make a ton of sense, but it has a great view of the front pathway, and she could keep an eye on anyone passing by with her espionage equipment and put notes on her bulletin board. I added an area where guests could leave shoes and backpacks and move the side table next to the door so keys or whatever could be dropped off. When I got to the upstairs, I was having trouble with the layout. I wanted a fireplace where the chimney is, but the stairs were right there and it was making me unhappy. And this is where I break the build. I put on object deletion protection and I tried to move the stair, but a lot of objects from other rooms were stuck to it. So I put a new stair on the other side and deleted the old stair, and with BB Protect still on, which the game did not like. I did not, however, find this out until I came back from creating outfits for a mannequin I put in the upstairs closet. Nothing weird going on here. I pretty much kept all of the items Noomix placed upstairs except for the computer and bookshelf, and I changed the configuration of everything. The way it was just made me unhappy and I couldn't deal. I wanted the bed across from the fireplace as much as I could do it while keeping things balanced, and the bathroom just wanted to be in that far side. I felt like that huge bed deserved more space, so I opened everything up and made the bedroom and sitting area the room when you immediately go up the stairs, and where the bedroom was to the bathroom. I also put a small closet, but larger than it was, in the corner where the bathroom was. I was much happier with it this way, and it felt much cozier and felt right. Usually with me, I will stare at something, and if it doesn't feel right, I will try to think of a way to add something or incorporate it elsewhere, or use a different object to correct that feeling. The basement needed very little additions, but I was inspired by V's trap mechanism. I decided to use this pulley mechanism from Get Famous and rotate some rain chains to look like they could be engaged to reset the trap. I also felt like there needed to be a cushion to catch the children when they fell, because you don't want them hurt too bad before you cook them. We did have a little discussion about the cushion. V felt like it looked too clean, so she switched it out with the Eco Lifestyle bed, but I felt like we shouldn't have 2 beds in there, so one of them needed to go. So we compromised and used a debug item from Eco Lifestyle, and we were all happy with that. I also wanted to add something to the well area, which didn't have as much love as it deserved. I thought like a trash chute would be really cool, so I used the concrete sewer tube thing from Eco and rotated and shrink them to make a chute, and then found some round windows the same size and shrunk those down so that the window could disappear, and voila, a trash chute. I also added some trash in the well itself, made the mannequin look like it was floating, put some skeletons in there and some water plants, and of course, a green drip coming from the tube down into the well shaft. I hope you enjoyed our renovation of RGR's Gaming Decor Needed Challenge. If you haven't already, please check out RG's channel linked below and check out his video about the challenge itself. You'll see more of how the build looked before we got to it, and if you want to see how it is after we renovated, well, I hope you have a fast computer because it takes a while to load.